Welcome back to John Medina's 12 Laws of the Brain series. In previous episodes, we explored how the brain remembers, focuses, and makes decisions. Today, we'll delve into law number 8, an extremely important but often underestimated law. The brain cannot learn effectively when it's stressed. This law not only explains why we learn less effectively under pressure, but also helps us understand relationships, family, work, and how society operates. And to begin, I want to tell you a story about a dog, a metal box, and a thought-provoking truth about the human brain. There was a German shepherd. It was lying in the corner of a metal box, whimpering softly. At first glance, it seemed simple. But something was amiss. This dog wasn't just lying there. It was enduring a series of electric shocks, jolts that made it howl in agony. Aww. The pain was real, and it seemed endless. But here's the strangest part. The escape was right in front of it. The other side of the box was perfectly safe, separated only by a low fence, easily crossed. Safety was just a jump away. This is the core question. With such a clear escape and unbearable pain, why did the dog just lie there accepting its fate? Why didn't it try to save itself? The answer will reveal a surprising truth about how our brains cope with stress. Yes, this phenomenon is what psychologist Martin Seligman calls learned helplessness. The dog had learned that all its efforts were futile. Before being placed in this box, it had been locked in another cage with no escape from the shocks. It had learned to be utterly helpless. Therefore, even with an escape route right in front of it, its brain no longer recognized it. So, what does science say about this powerful yet devastating psychological state? How can this feeling of being out of control imprison us so effectively? Let's delve deeper. Part 1. The helplessness trap. The science of giving up. Before we begin, I have a question for everyone. If the pain is real and the escape is right in front of you, what makes a creature stand still and endure it? Returning to the main point, researchers Kim and Diamond have identified 3 main components of stress. There must be a physiological response, the stressor must be perceived as negative, and most importantly, there must be a feeling of loss of control. And it is this feeling of loss of control that transforms stress from a normal challenge into a real poison. When faced with danger, our bodies deliver a double blow. First, adrenaline. It gives us an immediate energy boost to fight or flee. But immediately after that comes the second wave, cortisol. Cortisol is produced to help us process consequences, but when it persists for too long, it becomes a problem. And this is the problem. Our biological mechanisms are optimized for short-term, intense dangers, such as encountering a tiger. Our stress response is designed for seconds, not to cope with months or years of worry about work, money, or relationships. We are using an archaic system to cope with modern problems, and that is slowly wearing us down. Based on that, you have the answer to the question. If the pain is real and the escape is right in front of you, what makes a creature stand still and endure it? The answer is not because of a lack of strength, but because the brain has learned that any effort is futile, and once that belief is formed, the behavior stops. Now, let's take a closer look inside and see what kind of biological battle is actually taking place in our brains when subjected to prolonged stress. Part 2. Your brain under stress, a biological battle. Before we get to this part, I have a question for everyone. Why does stress not only tire us out, but also impair our ability to learn and remember? Let's get back to the main point. Imagine it like a battle in the brain. There's a bully and a hero. Cortisol, when in excess, acts like a bully, attacking and destroying neurons in the hippocampus, the center of our learning and memory. Meanwhile, we have a hero called BDNF, a protein that constantly tries to protect and nourish those neurons. When stress is short-lived, the hero wins, But with chronic stress, the bully prevails. And when the bully cortisol wins, the consequences are truly devastating. It doesn't just temporarily impair learning ability, it causes real physical damage, breaking connections, preventing the growth of new brain cells, and in severe cases, it actually kills brain cells. Essentially, chronic stress is shrinking our brains. Based on that, you have the answer to the question: why does stress not only tire us out, but also impair our learning and memory abilities? The answer is because stress triggers a biological war in the brain, where survival hormones override mechanisms designed for learning and growth. But let's not stop at the brain. Let's consider the very real consequences that chronic stress has on our physical health and work performance. Part 3. The price to pay. The consequences of stress. Before we begin, I have a question for everyone. What happens when a temporary survival state becomes a permanent state of the brain? Back to the main point. When stressed, that excess adrenaline and cortisol wreak havoc on our entire bodies. They cause scarring in blood vessels, leading to a higher risk of heart attack and stroke. They weaken the immune system, making us more susceptible to illness. In the long run, stress pushes us into a state of exhaustion, both physically and mentally. How sensitive is our immune system really? Consider this amazing study. Researchers asked one group of actors to spend an entire day focusing on sad memories, while the other group focused on happy memories. The result was that the sad group showed a significant drop in immune function within just one day. This demonstrates a direct and extremely rapid link between our emotional state and our physical health. Based on that, you now have the answer to the question: what happens when a temporary survival state becomes the brain's permanent state? The answer is the brain stops adapting. It begins to harm itself, from neural connections to overall health. Okay, now let's try applying all this scientific knowledge to two of the most familiar areas of modern life: family and work. Part 4. Home and work. Real-life stress. Before we get to this part, I have a question for everyone. Why can a stressful environment destroy the potential of even the smartest people? Let's get back to the main point. This is a true story from a 4th grade teacher. Kelly used to be the star student in his class, intelligent, sociable, and always getting high grades. But after the Christmas break, everything changed completely. Kelly's grades plummeted. He became irritable. What happened? His parents were going through a divorce, and in frustration,
"Oh no!"
the teacher exclaimed that she realized the stressful environment at home had completely destroyed Kelly's learning ability. This story shows us a crucial truth. We often think that only intelligence or the quality of education determines a child's success. But research shows there's an even more powerful predictor: emotional safety and stability at home. A child living in a stressful, conflict-ridden home environment simply isn't equipped to learn, no matter how intelligent they are. Look at this number: $300 billion. Yes, that's unbelievable. This is the estimated annual cost that workplace stress incurs for companies in the US. This figure comes from lost productivity, sick leave, and soaring healthcare costs. Clearly, stress isn't just a personal issue, it's a real economic crisis. So what creates the worst kind of stress in the workplace? That's a perfect example of acquired helplessness, when someone faces high pressure and demands, but feels they have too little control or autonomy to get the job done. Sounds familiar? It's exactly like the situation with the dog in the box at the beginning. Based on that, you now have the answer to the question: why can a high-pressure environment destroy the potential of even the smartest people? The answer is, intelligence cannot function when the brain is constantly on defense, and no one learns well under prolonged feelings of insecurity. So after seeing all the negative impacts, the big question is, what can we do? Is there a way to combat the effects of stress and regain control? Fortunately, the answer is yes. Part 5. Regaining control, a hopeful path. Before we get to this part, I have a question for everyone. If losing control is the root of tension, is there still hope? Returning to the main point. 90%. This is the astonishing accuracy rate with which researcher John Gottman can predict whether a marriage will succeed or fail after just a few minutes of observing a couple talking to each other. He's not a fortune teller, mind you. He's a scientist who has deciphered behaviors that can predict stability in a relationship. John Gottman didn't stop at just predicting. He developed an intervention method. By teaching couples how to reduce hostility and communicate better, he significantly reduced the divorce rate. But even more astonishing is its impact on the children of these couples. By stabilizing the emotional environment for parents, Gottman directly improved their children's brain development, creating children with healthy nervous systems. Based on this, you now have the answer to the question, if loss of control is the root of stress, is there still hope? The answer is yes, because when people regain a sense of safety and control, the brain can recover, learn, and develop again. So, the 8th role of the brain can be summarized in one key truth. A stressed brain is not designed to learn, remember, or grow. When people live in a prolonged state of loss of control, the brain switches to survival mode. And in that mode, learning is no longer a priority. Safety is everything. Short-term stress can help us react faster, but chronic stress does the opposite. It erodes memory, destroys learning ability, weakens the body, and ultimately leaves us like the dog in the metal box, enduring even when the escape is right in front of us. Rule 8 reminds us that for human development, emotional security must first be created. Without a sense of control, the brain will never function at its best. Thank you for joining me in exploring Rule 8 in the 12 Laws of the Brain series. See you in the next rule.